Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the podcast. Coming to you up above Dave Grohl Alley in beautiful downtown Warren, Ohio from Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. Excited as normal to get our show started with a fantastic guest from broadcasting today. So all you future broadcasters out there, we're going to get some tips and tricks today from a legend in the making. But before we get there, we've got to throw a shout out to our amazing sponsors for bringing this show to you today. They are the Station Square Restaurant, Modern Methods Brewery, Salvatore's Italian Grill, Brokers Realty, and Green Life Holdings. Thank you very much, sponsors, for sponsoring the podcast. And of course, you can find links to those great sponsors at theprodcast.net, and that's powered by our one and only MDI Studios. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited to welcome our guest today, Mr. Derek Steyer, an award-winning, Emmy award-winning, and AP award-winning broadcast journalist from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Jim. So glad to be here.
Man, I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
I offered Derek some prime today. We like to make our guests comfortable here. So his sons are relatively the same age as mine. He's got a 9 and 11-year-old. Yep. Jimmy's 10. And of course, if you follow, he's got a YouTube channel. So he calls himself the Ghost.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we've been searching for prime all across the country. We were in Florida. We found some, like a specific flavor that.
What flavor?
I think it was strawberry watermelon.
Okay.
And we bought it and flew it back to a couple bottles. Flew it back to Ohio.
So my son wants to find Meta Moon.
Oh, yeah. That's the white bottle.
Yes. Vitamin Shop in Niles has Prime.
Yes. They did not have Meta Moon.
No.
So
you can order it online, though.
You can.
Yes. Free shipping over like $25, too.
From Vitamin Shop?
Yes.
Oh, really? Did you order it?
We have not yet.
This stuff is kind of pricey.
It's $30 for 12 bottles.
Yeah.
Feels a little bit
Well,
pricey.
I found it a couple of times. It was like $45.
Woof.
Yeah. And he was like, hey, we got to get, well, there's another flavor, Derek, that's like called KSI.
Okay.
And it's the KSI. I think that guy's like a YouTube fighter.
Him and Logan Paul founded Prime.
So the KSI flavor, they sell online somewhere, and it's like a couple $100 to find this. Yeah, you can get it from like England, I guess.
For a drink?
For one drink.
Okay.
So I was texting Derek this a couple days ago. I go, hey, man, I've got some Folgers coffee if you're interested. Right. He goes, no, just water's good. And then I offered him this Prime, and we started talking about, how our kids are into this stuff.
Into the Prime. Yes.
Are your sons, they're at that age now, like, obviously, 9 and 11, but they've been there for a while. Like, are they like, dad's a celebrity, dad's on TV? Like, how does that work in your household?
They could care less. Could care less. All their friends, it's hysterical to them. Saw your dad on TV. I see your dad. Oh, hey, Mr. Steyer, there's Bryce's dad. They don't watch me. My wife doesn't watch me. They really could care less.
That's how you stay grounded.
And it's funny because when we're walking, we'll be at the mall, somebody will say, hey, enjoy watching you or whatever, and my son will look at me and goes, who was that? And I go, I don't know. It was just, they think, everybody knows me, but no, it's just a viewer and everything, so they could care less.
Well, I think that keeps you grounded, right?
For sure.
Because when I first met my wife, she could not be, impressed less. Yeah, whatever. You're just a dude,
right? Exactly.
My son is kind of into it though now. He's into video. Like I mentioned, he has his own YouTube channel.
My son's gotten into a little bit of that too.
I was going to ask you, like,
they have YouTube?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you take them into the station at all? Do they get to see?
They
some
do.
Of that
they
stuff?
love coming to the station, and as a matter of fact, they both love Eric Wilhelm, our meteorologist, more than me. And so my sons say we want to be Eric, and so when they come to the station and go into the studio, they go to the weather wall, the green screen, and pretend to do the weather.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. They love coming to the TV station, so that's one thing they do like.
Do they have like green screens of their own? Like they have little cameras. A lot of these kids have cameras.
No, I know. my older one, the 11-year-old Bryce, he bought like a GoPro camera.
Yeah.
And it's kind of experimenting with that a little bit, but hasn't quite gotten into the whole big setup or anything just yet.
That's super, man.
Yeah.
Are you excited to kind of assist them with that?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because growing up, I always loved the camcorders and any, whatever video machines they had back then. And I loved making videos. And because I wanted to be like a movie director when I was young. I wanted to get into making films and stuff like that. So if they could want to get into that, I want to help them as much as possible. And I love, as part of my job, obviously, shooting video. And I love it. And so any kind of tips I can give them or help I can give them. Like my son did one video. He wanted to do a soccer video because they're big into soccer. And they wanted to do a soccer video. He needed me to be his cameraman. And so I did that, and that was a blast, and kind of helped him. He's like, "No, I think we should do it this way," and I explained why.
He
liked that.
Yeah,
he liked that. I think it's helped him now as he's him and his friends go and make little movies, is what they call it too, with their phones and stuff. So.
Was there a movie that gave you the bug that, something you saw when you were young, you're like, I want to do this?
Yeah, no, I maybe the Star Wars movies. I was really into those, but nothing really. I just loved movies in general. I mean, just anything really. And that kind of helped push me into acting a little bit. I did theater in high school.
Okay.
And so really loved that aspect. And if I have one regret, I think it's that I didn't follow that into college. I got so scared. High school is easy. You show up, they put the tryout list or whatever, you show up, you try out, and you either make it or you don't. College, you got to prepare your own monologue or whatnot. You got to actually get over to the auditions. And I was so scared of that for some reason, just scared. But I wish I really would have gotten into that. But I always loved acting, filmmaking, movies, videos, all that.
What, that's a common theme, right? Mm-hmm. Is that whether it's stage fright to do it because you're naked,
Sure.
you're exposed out there for people to judge you or to whatever. Yes. How did you eventually get over that fear to be in front of camera? Because you are so just a natural, right. I'm sure there's a lot of work and a lot of polish that people didn't see behind the scenes. Sure. But how did you get to that stage where you're at now?
That's a great question. And I think the theater in high school helped because you are on stage and you're in front of all those people. Because my kids I've always said, you guys need to get into acting. You guys need to get into acting. And they're like, they'll only do it in front of me and mom. They won't do it in front of, they're embarrassed to do it in front of other people. And I'm trying to get them out of that. But I think in high school, I don't know what it was. I was just willing to do it. And then I think once you perform in front of people, and the more you perform, that sort of anxiety and maybe that stage fright just goes away. And so I had no problems when I kind of decided to go into the broadcast television world. Now I would get nervous, and I feel the little butterflies in my stomach when I was on air when I first started out for probably several years. And finally, you just do it enough that it just kind of all goes away and it just becomes more natural. I've always tell people repetition is the biggest thing, reps. And once you do it enough, it just becomes more natural for you. But there wasn't really one thing I think that got me over a hump or anything like that. I guess I made my mind up that this was what I was going to do and I wasn't going to let anything stop me.
Were you a speech and debate guy in high school?
No, not at all. Not at all. I did not like speaking in front. It's great. I still, to this day, I don't like being on this end of the camera. I don't like being interviewed. I like being the one that gets to interview people. I know, right?
We have them under our microscope.
But no, I was never into speech and debate. I was an athlete growing up, and then I got into theater once I got into my freshman year of high school.
What were your sports? What was your...
Soccer and baseball.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. What positions?
Outfield for baseball, and then soccer, I was a defender, but then I switched to goalkeeper. And my older sister was a goalkeeper, and I just thought that was so cool. So I wanted to be like her, and did that through high school.
And your sons are into soccer now too.
They are, and my older one Bryce is a goalkeeper himself.
Nice,
and then the
following in the footsteps.
Yeah, the younger one does it a little bit, but is more of a field player. And we are soccer 24/7, man.
Was your wife your wife's from Champion, Ohio?
My wife's from Champion. She was a dancer and a cheerleader.
Okay.
So didn't really play a volleyball player, but
still an athlete.
Still an athlete.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I wouldn't say that they have the best genes. We weren't the best athletes. I mean, we were, very average at best. But still, they work hard and they love it. We've tried all the sports, and they just said, you know what, we want to just play soccer and concentrate on that. So they do the club and the travel stuff and everything. So
what were the plays when you were in high school? What were the plays, and did you have? There was an experience, and I don't know. I'm sure it's not. I know it's not just germane to Ohio, but there was an experience where we played. Soccer was new to our school, right? In fact, I think my freshman year or maybe my 8th grade year, that was like their first year of starting the program. I went to JFK locally. Now it's a good program, and it's a smaller school, obviously, but everything was football, and here everything was like football driven. And there was a feeling. I've had my uncle on and a couple other athletes that kind of athletes/artists, warrior poets.
I like that.
Where they were like, there's a kind of a duality that you felt sometimes as an artist. Oh, they think that the theater, that's like sissy stuff. That's like that artsy stuff, and we're manly style. Did you have that as an athlete in St. Louis?
Yes, it was our high school. I mean, I think every place has it. They're very cliquey.
Yeah.
And so if you were into theater, you were, I mean, I don't want to say nerd's not the right word, but you weren't in that popular clique as the athletes were. But I felt like I kind of bridged that gap, because I was one of those kids that, I wasn't the best athlete in the school, so I wasn't in the super popular group, but I also wasn't in the outcast group. I was kind of in the middle. I had friends with a lot of different cliques.
Derek Steyer walked in both worlds.
Yes, and I think, at least I tell myself, that I feel like I helped bridge that gap a little bit when I started doing theater, and you started to see some of the more popular kids come over to the theater to do it too. Yeah, and so it really was great to see that come together, and people embraced it. And so you mentioned the plays. So I mentioned my first one was Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, okay.
As a freshman,
I was going to ask you these. Yeah,
I was a dead body.
That's a tough role.
But I always prided myself on saying that I was the head dead body, because I actually got my arm raised out of a window seat. So I'm like, yeah, my arm's on stage. So it started there. My freshman musical was Fiddler on the Roof, and I got to play the rabbi. And that was really cool.
How's your singing?
I am not very well. A character singer at best. And so that frightened me whenever to try out for musicals. That frightened me, was the singing aspect. But fortunately, I had roles that you didn't really require you to be a great singer. You can, as a grandpa, I could sing like in a grandpa voice or an old rabbi voice or whatever it was. And so, but yeah, so many just great shows there. I did South Pacific my senior year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Got to sing in that one too.
I did. I was Captain Brackett. I was like an officer or whatnot. I did Meet Me in St. Louis, where I got to play Grandpa. And those are the main ones that I remember. But I always got cast as the old person. I don't know what it was, but I liked that, because I loved putting the makeup on and the wigs and getting all, just transforming yourself into somebody else. That
True
was really,
character acting.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, and forgive me because I don't know this, have you done any plays locally? Are you doing any?
Yes. So when I started into broadcast journalism, and I know we're going to talk about that too, I started out in sports, and I was the weekend sports anchor, but I always worked nights during the week and then weekends. I never had the time to really do any local community theater. Now, when I came up here in 2013, I helped launch the weekend morning show on WFMJ. And so my work schedule completely shifted. I was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 to 5, and then weekend mornings I was done by noon on the weekends. So for the first time, my schedule would allow me to do some theater. Glenn Stevens, who also actor and at WFMJ, got me into the Victorian Players, now the Hopewell. And I had the opportunity to do, 3 or 4 plays. As soon as I got up here, I did The Legend of Sneaky Fitch. I did Charlie's Aunt. I did a really cool play, and I'm going to butcher the name of it. But it's basically if Lee Harvey Oswald was on trial, if he had lived and went on trial. And so I was like a lawyer in that one. And that was a really cool play. And so for the first time, I got to get back to my roots a little bit and do community theater, which was so much fun. So much fun. Then I took over for Bob Black, who retired in 2015, and my schedule went back to Nightside, and now I just don't have the schedule to do the theater anymore.
Lenten time or anytime, Station Square seafood is delivered daily and always prepared fresh every time. And now to go with your salmon, swordfish, or any favorite dish, Station Square's small batch signature seasonings: lemon pepper, Cajun, or charcoal steak rub. When you finish mowing your lawn on that hot summer day, treat yourself to a cold Kolsch. Lawn Artist by Modern Methods Brewery. Stop in our tap room on Dave Grohl Alley in Warren or pick up a 4-pack today at your local drive-thru or grocery store. Visit modernmethodsbrew.com for more. A few years ago did Wait Until Dark with TNT. They had it at the Robins. And I hadn't done a play since 8th grade.
Okay.
And the director, Ron Senesio, who is on one of the episodes, along with Eric Kildow from Kent State Trumbull. He says, "Oh, why don't you try out for this thing?" I did this acting workshop with Austin Pendleton, and he goes, "Oh, you were really good. You try out for this play." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I'd done a couple, local indie films, and obviously, more comfortable behind the camera like you. But recently had been branching out. I do some voiceovers and different stuff. So I was like, I'll try it out, and I got the part, and it had a ton of lines. And I was like, this won't be too bad. But, thinking from a film perspective, where like I've had a lot of lines in other movies, and it's like, hey, cut, back to one, you don't get that opportunity there, right? And so to have that experience again, to be kind of naked on stage and not realize the amount of time for rehearsals. I mean, you gotta, if you wanted to go, and it was a great production. Ron did a great job. The whole cast did fantastic. Unfortunately, it was during COVID, and so everyone's masked up and socially distanced, and so they moved it from TNT to Robbins because it was bigger. But we didn't have a great, not a lot of people were coming out. Anyone who saw that show, thank you for coming out and watching us, because so many people, you forget how much time it takes. I did a play in 8th grade, and you'd stay after school for an hour and rehearse, and it was no big deal. I was the lead in that, but it just seemed easier and simpler.
For sure.
You got your kids, you're running them to soccer, you got to, you're doing stuff around the house and your job, and that stuff takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't know what your schedule was like, but I remember when I did it was like 6:30, 7 p.m. to 9:30, 10 o'clock. I mean, every night.
Yep.
So it's a lot.
It's a challenge. You mentioned Glenn Stevens.
Yeah.
So years ago, Glenn and I did a project for the probate court. We did this video, and he mentioned he was, he did plays and stuff.
Yes.
And so I went on and saw him in a couple, and he's really good.
He's fantastic.
He plays like a really. I always want to get him in like a straight man character, like almost like a detective of some sort. When we were working on the probate court together, you always kind of dream stuff up as you're, this guy would be really good. Yes. Like there's a gem role in there, for him. There's a gem part for him.
Yeah, no, and he's really good as the straight guy. I loved playing the just out of this world characters. Like Sneaky Fitch was this, cowboy crazy guy, and Charlie's Aunt, I dressed up as a woman and I had to play a woman. Fun. You know what I mean? And so that was a lot of fun. And so it's just, I love being characters that you would never get to do or be in any other setting.
Well, so the viewers, the prodders, they can't see Uncle Louie. That's a stand-in for us, but there's actually, I have some prosthetics some appliances in the back. The local makeup artist, I got my face, in the latex, and they peeled it off and they made a mold, and it's kind of modeled after that guy.
Nice.
I'll show you some stuff afterwards.
Nice.
We made it for some advertising stuff, and we used it a little bit, but man, I really that's the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Like I end up being these roles that are like me, instead of, I really want to play like some kind of,
right.
You always want to play. I always want to play the bad guy.
The bad guy.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit, though.
Sure.
Because that's cool that you're into the fun stuff. But I was watching you last night on the news.
Okay.
You were talking about East Palestine and everything that's going on down there with the water and I just started thinking, I've got to know you a little bit on a personal level, and over the years, being at FMJ, and I never really thought about this until last night as you were talking about it. Are there stories, you guys cover from a wide range of topics, right? Like you said, you started in sports. I know you've been great to the arts and covering local movies or local plays or local art shows and things of that nature. But you have to cover some really heavy stuff sometimes.
For sure.
Is that ever weigh on you? And is there ever a story in your investigative days that just stuck with you? You still think about?
It does. It does weigh on you. And if I'm going to be totally honest, though, you stay in this business long enough and you kind of become numb to a lot of it. I think what hits me the hardest are those stories when you cover murder-suicides that involve kids, that involves families. When you hear about the woman that drove her minivan full of kids into the ocean.
Oh, geez, yeah.
When you hear about, just last week, either this week or last week, the murder-suicide where the guy killed 5 teenagers and the mom and himself. Those, I think, just because I'm a family man and I have kids and a wife and everything, I think those are the ones that really hit hard. Obviously, I feel for people in East Palestine or other communities that are having to go through something like what they went through. But over the years, I've covered so much. I got to do the math here. I started in 1997, 07, 17. This is my 26th year in broadcasting. So I've covered a lot of different stories and everything. So nothing one that sticks out. But again, I go back to the fact that when you cover rapes or you cover murders or whatnot, you do become a little bit numb to it. But man, there's times when I'm just going, oh, it's awful. I can't believe I have to read about this again. And so I think it's more of a, really, we're still having to deal with all of this in society today, and that's obviously a much bigger conversation. But that's kind of the scene for me over all these years with all those stories.
Need great food fast? Visit mysalvatores.com and order anything on our menu for a quick pickup. All of your favorites ready when you are. Specials available on mysalvatores.com.
Want to be debt-free faster, save money in taxes and insurance, and retire with more wealth? Call Zach Byler at Green Life Holdings today for full-service financial advisory. 330-219-5225. If you're looking to buy new or sell your current home or commercial property in Northeast Ohio or Northwestern Pennsylvania, look no further than Brokers Realty at brokerssold.com. When you were a green reporter, right?
Yeah.
You went to school in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Yes, Arkansas State. Mm-hmm.
And it's a Jonesboro's about 80,000 people.
It's not very big.
And kind of a similar, a bigger market than Youngstown, but kind of a similar. Oh, is it a smaller market?
So TV stations and cities are ranked by market size, and Jonesboro was like 187 when I was there.
Oh, okay.
And so Youngstown's about 117, just because I think of the surrounding
area,
counties and
gotcha.
our viewership. I think we have about 300,000 people that I think watch us on 21 News.
Yeah, sure.
And so in Jonesboro, you didn't have nearly that many.
Gotcha. So Jonesboro is just the city's about 80,000 or so, and Youngstown's 60. But with Boardman and Poland, Austintown, and Columbiana, and you guys have
Mercer County.
Yeah, you got a big spread.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were there, what was your first, kind of gig as a you're out of college?
Right. I'm actually not out of college, so how about this? So I'm a junior, kind of senior in college.
You were studying?
I was studying broadcast journalism.
Okay.
Yep. And I interned at the only station in Jonesboro, the ABC affiliate, KAIT. And the sports director at the time had to have heart surgery. And so he was going to be out about 5-6 months. So they decided to promote the weekend guy. There's a 2-person sports department, like what most sports departments across the country at TV stations are. They promoted him to be the weekday sports director. He'll anchor the weekday, and they needed somebody to do the weekend newscast, the weekend sportscasts. And so they asked me if I wanted to try out for that. And I'm like, I guess so. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. I'm still in college. I interned, but I did have 3 stories that aired on their actual station as an intern. And that's kind of unheard of. Not many stations give interns that kind of opportunity. And so I'm like, okay, well, I try out. There was another guy that already worked at the station that wanted that job too. Well, long story short, I got the job. They offered it to me on a part-time basis to anchor the weekend sports and then report one day or whatnot. And I took it. I do regret that because I did not finish school. And so I think I probably had, maybe a semester and a half left, maybe 2 semesters. I can't quite remember. But I thought, you know what? This is my opportunity. This was what I've been working for.
Right.
Couldn't believe I was getting an on-air job without graduating first. So I took that, and then whenever the sports director got better and got well, he just opted to retire. And so they asked me if I wanted to do it then full time, and I took the job. And
that was a good move.
It was a good move.
Yeah,
it was. A lot of this business is who you know and being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
that's a lot of it.
I think your regret or whatever, was the opportunity that you needed to take it into.
For sure.
And that. I had Ottavio Musumeci on, and I didn't realize in interviewing, we've been friends for 15 years, and he didn't graduate high school. In fact, he didn't even go to high school. When he graduated 8th grade, he said, school's not really for me. His dad said, well, you got to get a job. So 2 weeks later, he started working at a restaurant because that's what he was into, and worked every job in several big restaurants, and so a lot of times that experience, the degree's nice. I'm not knocking the degree,
no.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
But that experience, that hands-on,
correct,
doing it, like you say, getting those reps. We talk about that, in sports all the time. Just
right.
get your reps,
right.
And it becomes second nature. And obviously,
in this business, for sure. Back then, in 1997, 1998, getting that first job was so much harder than it is now. And once you got that first job, you were almost golden, so to speak, because now you're an experienced journalist, and that helped you get another job. And other employers almost looked at it. They'd rather see that you've been working on air
right.
for 3, 4, 5 years as opposed to graduating. And it didn't deter me getting another job because I
helped you.
Yeah, I stayed in Jonesboro for about a year and a half and then moved to Montgomery, Alabama, and was down there for about 13, 14 years. And then came up here, all without graduating from college. Now, could it hurt me if I want to get out of the business at some point? It might, but I would hope that at my age and my years of experience and would lend more credence than a degree. But,
well, almost if you would have passed on that, no, I want to finish, you might not have got that opportunity again like that.
Correct.
Not to say that you don't have the talent level to do that, just that opportunity might not have presented itself.
It may not have, but it may have set me on a whole completely different path. And
sure.
Who knows where I would even be right now.
You might not have been in Alabama to meet your wife.
Correct. And wouldn't be here right now to be talking to you.
Yeah. How did that work out? How did you meet your wife? She was in TV as well.
She was in TV as well. And so I moved to Montgomery in 99, and I want to say she came in like 2003 or 2004. And she was the weekend news anchor at my competition. So she was at the CBS affiliate.
Oh, boy.
I was at the NBC affiliate as the weekend sports anchor. We knew of each other, but our paths had never
This has
really
like a
crossed.
movie making. It's like a screenplay here.
I can't believe I'm going
Like
to tell
a
this story,
rom-com.
too.
Yeah, no,
Right,
tell it. I
right,
want to hear it.
So I was married, and one thing you don't know, I have 4 boys.
Oh, okay.
So I was married, got married basically right in like 1998 after getting my first job. I had 2 boys with my first wife. We ended up getting divorced in 2005. And so 2006, it was, I want to say November of 2006. I go with a friend to a bar, and our paths cross. She's there with a group of friends. I'm there with a group of
You're
friends.
like, there's the competition.
Yep. So I went up to her, started talking to her, and so I made some sort of a comment, and she said, well, why don't you go tell that to your wife? Because she did not know that I was divorced.
Oh.
And I said, well, I'm divorced. And, I'm newly single or whatever. And she felt like crap for making that comment. And so
There's my in.
She's like, round of drinks. And we hit it off. We ended up talking till like 4 or 5 a.m. that morning, and just the rest is history.
Nice.
So met in a bar, but knew of each other for so many years and just hit it off immediately. And we ended up getting married about 3 years later in 2009. And then now we have 2 boys together. And and then 2013, we had Bryce and we had Evan on the way. And we didn't have any family in Montgomery. Her family was all up here. She's from Champion. My family's all in St. Louis. And we're like, you know what? Let's get closer to somebody's home. It's so far away. And she was a finalist for a job at the Timken Corporation in Canton. And I said, well, shoot, I better start figuring out a job for me. So I ended up calling both stations. And Mona Alexander, my news director, got back to me and said, well, we're launching this weekend morning show. Is that something you might be interested in? I was still doing sports, obviously. I had thought about transitioning from sports to news for the last couple of years, but I wasn't sure. And so I'm like, well, this sounds like it might be kind of fun, might be kind of cool, a new chapter in my career. And so she ended up not getting the job, but I got the job at WFMJ. And so we're like, okay, well, let's just go ahead and go. And so moved up here in 2013, and it's been a great move. It really has. I miss the South a little bit. I miss the weather. She hated the South. My wife did. And so hated the weather, or just too hot for her. But it's been a great move because this has been a fantastic community for us. And we live in Cortland now, so we're not far from her mom in Champion, her dad in Champion, and other relatives and stuff. So it's been a really great move, and it's been a nice career change for myself. Did the weekend morning show for a couple of years, and like I said, I was able to take over for Bob when he retired in 2015, and then have been anchoring the 6 and the 11 news ever since then.
Yeah, and you're doing a fantastic job because you're welcome. Thank you, because you're my news guy. You're delivering the news at 6 and 11. I feel like I spend a lot of time with you, like I'm sure a lot of the folks in the Valley do.
So the funniest comment I get are people that say, I wake up with you in my bed and I go to bed with you at night.
That's a little weird. That's a little weird. I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't have TVs in my bedrooms, but that's a little strange.
Yep. I just, you just put the smile on and you say, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Well, you've been nominated. The show, the 5 p.m. News, has been nominated with your whole team with Lindsay McCoy, and then you've also been nominated for an Emmy recently, and you're up for it, and you'll find out in July at some point.
June.
June.
June 17th is the Emmy Gala at La Center in Westlake, and so very blessed, very fortunate to be recognized by my peers. because those are judged by, the organization is called NATIS, and it's the National Academy of Arts and Television Sciences. We are the Great Lakes region, which comprises cities and TV markets like Youngstown, Erie, PA, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Dayton, Toledo. I want to say Fort Wayne, Indiana, maybe another one too. And so those are the television stations in those cities that you're competing against. And then every other region, so all of our awards that we submit will get judged by some other region, maybe the Southeast region or the California region or whatever it is. They judge, and then based on their scores determines whether or not you get nominated for an Emmy. And so it's very, very rewarding to be honored by your peers who watch your work and are pretty much doing the same thing that you're doing. And so kudos to the crew over at 21 News at 5. That just launched in the last 8 months. I think I want to say it was September of last year. And Lindsay McCoy and the crew, they do a fantastic job. So when we hosted the Senate debate,
Yep.
We did our show out there live at Stambaugh Auditorium, and that's the newscast that we entered for the award.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I watched that. That was good.
Yeah, we had Henry Gomez, we had Chuck Todd, we had Justin Mitchell, our managing editor, a member of the 21 News political team, and so a lot of great interviews and information leading up to that debate. And so everybody that was a part of that newscast, I think, deserves this honor. And it's going to be a local battle. So it's our 21 News at 5 up against KBN's News at 5.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So we'll see who wins the Emmy in that one.
Do you ever see any of those people out and you're like,
we do.
Give them the nod, like, hey, what's up?
Everybody's different. Some are more competitive than others, but for the most part, everybody is very cordial and nice. And it's good because it's we don't need to be fighting. We don't need to be arguing or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's,
right.
We're all in the same business, and we all have the same goal to serve our viewers with news coverage and holding the people in office accountable and everything. So
there's got to be there's got to be a lot of camaraderie. Even you guys all have the same challenges at different places,
sure.
Obviously, but you have the same challenges. You have the same. We'll all run into people that, they're like, oh, were you hanging out with so and so? They got a production company too. I said, what you don't realize is, like, first off, there's not a lot of us, but
Right.
there's a lot more now than there were 20 plus years ago when I was getting started. But we all kind of, at some point or another, the guys and girls who were, people were like, oh, those are your competitors. Well, they kind of are, but they're kind of not really. And if you're working on a big enough job, you might be bringing these guys and girls in, or they might be bringing you in. And so there's a lot of crossover, and you have a lot of mutual respect. So I'm sure there's the same.
And that's what it is. It's mutual respect because we are all trying to do the same thing. Now, it is competitive.
Sure.
Because I need more eyeballs watching my newscast.
Right.
Because, of course, that leads to advertisements and,
Sure.
giving me my paycheck. And so competitive in that aspect. But, of course, mutual respect because we all have a job to do and we're all trying to do that to the best of our abilities. And so, I think there definitely is when you get to the same scene or you're working in the same gaggle or whatnot, you try to help each other out the best you can. But at the end of the day, you are too competitive, but you do it in a very, business-like manner and fashion.
I know a lot of the folks. We had Lowboy on before, and he's a funny dude. It's a wildcat. I could see, like... And we actually talked about this on his show. So I'm going to float this idea.
Sure.
Here's our elevator pitch.
Okay.
We make a movie, and it's Lowboy, okay, and Steyer, and they could play like amalgamations of themselves. They're not actually the same characters, and they're both after the same story.
Oh.
Have you ever had an experience where you're like show up on the scene, or like maybe it's not even your personal story, where two different competing stations show up on the scene, and they're kind of jockeying for position. You ever experience any of that kind of stuff?
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, when you go out to a crime scene,
I'm just seeing Lowboy and you like wrestling around on the ground in some kind of.
So it's Anchorman.
It's a comedy. Yeah,
a
right.
little
It's
bit.
Anchorman.
Yeah, the rumble out in the park.
The Youngstown Anchorman.
Yes, no touching of the hair and faces, when you go to a crime scene, you're trying to figure out, maybe if I can get over here and talk to this neighbor, or if I can go maybe get this person without them seeing, you know what I mean? Because, the goal is to try to get more information or whatever you can for your viewers, but I like that. I like that idea. Lowboy is hilarious.
Oh,
the promos that they do over there is fantastic. He's definitely found his style and his niche.
Well, when he was on radio,
yeah,
it was even more wild. You could be a
Gotcha.
little that shock jock mentality. So he kind of brought some of that over.
Right.
To the,
And I think our funniest person at FMJ is probably Steve Vesey.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is about the morning folks. They've got that personality.
They're wacky. They're all
they are.
juiced up on caffeine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but Vesey is a hysterical guy. Real quick wit. That's why I love talking with him.
What's the most challenging aspect of your job, or one of the more challenging aspects?
Oh man, there are many.
Let me pose it to you this way.
Honestly, I think for me, it's the time that I work.
Okay.
It's working evenings. It's working. It's being away from my family. And so it's not so much a work challenge as it is a life challenge. And so I think it's being away at night, not being able to coach my kids. I can get away for the most part to get and see games and stuff like that, but not being able to be there for dinner every night. We have to do FaceTime at bedtime and talk a little bit at night and see them then. And then I get up in the mornings to help them get on the bus. But otherwise, I think in terms of work, it's just making sure everyone's on the same page. So I'm the night side manager. And so making sure everybody has communicated properly, and we know we're getting this story, and what we want out of this story. Hey, have you called this person? And just making sure the producer is good, and making sure the photographers know where they're supposed to go. The reporters are all lined up, and making sure that we've got everything that we possibly can to fit into that 35-minute newscast each night. I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Is it tough? Is it a challenge always having to be on?
Yes, absolutely. And even outside of the TV station, and when you go out in public or whatnot,
I was just
everybody's watching, and everybody, for the most part, knows who you are, and so you can't act a fool or
can't have a bad day.
You can't have a bad day, and it happens sometimes. But yeah, and I know that a lot of different people in this business struggle with that. They don't want to be constantly recognized. They just want to kind of be left alone. They don't want to be bothered when people come up. I've gotten used to it. It's part of the job. I understand that. And so I think once you embrace that aspect of it, that you are in the public eye when you're in this role, and that people are going to come up to you and say, they may say critical things, which they have done. But they mostly are pretty positive, which is nice too. But you're going to get recognized at every restaurant you go to, and people are going to look and stare. My wife always has a fun thing with that. Oh, you've been spotted. That's always her thing. You've been spotted. You've been spotted. And so you just kind of smile and put on a good face, and, don't beat your kids in public. Just make sure you're doing it behind closed doors, and, everything's good.
That's an interesting way to put it, like that, and when I say, like, obviously the prodders understand what I'm saying, like, do you ever worry about having to, look your best? Like, every time I've seen you in public,
right,
you always look like,
oh no,
I've never seen you to where you're like, you don't look like you were on TV. I go, like, we were talking about, shooting the show now,
right?
And I can see every imperfection and my oily Italian skin and my wrinkles and I go, oh my gosh. And we were talking about, you say, oh, makeup it covers a lot of that up.
Yeah, it does. No, you should see me now. I would say something switched in me about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. every time I went out, I had to do my hair. I had to, look nice. My wife is more about it now. She's more conscious about it, self-conscious. Oh, I'm Derek Steyer's wife. I've got to look like what he should, people think I should look like. And so now on the weekends, man, I don't even do my hair. I maybe shower once a weekend. I used to try to look. I just don't care anymore, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah,
I'm just like, you know what? This is who I am.
You're a normal guy.
I'm a normal guy,
right.
And I'm comfortable in my skin, and it is what it is. And it's funny because a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're not all dressed up in your suit." They see me on TV in my suit and tie and my hair fixed and everything. But nowadays, I don't go out with all fixed up or anything like that. But I am conscious of being on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still am trying to, make sure
you're aware that
I'm,
there's eyeballs on you.
I am, and there's still a persona, if you will, that I try to portray. So
what's different about Derek Steyer, the man, versus Derek Steyer, the TV personality that most people don't know about?
And the goal there is to be one and the same. Mm-hmm. They say that's the mark of a good broadcaster. The thing about us is we try to write conversationally, and they want us to tell the story as if I were telling you right now, Jim. You know what I mean? Like two people were murdered and whatever. I mean, obviously, you don't talk the way we do it on TV.
Sure.
But I think the more genuine you are on air, you're more yourself on air. I think people like seeing that when they're out there. Oh, that's the same guy. I mean, I just talked to the same guy that I see on air. But I will tell you, I'm a little bit more. My voice gets a little bit more serious, and you've done voiceovers and stuff like that. And, if it's a fun story, our octave gets a little bit higher. And if it's a little bit more serious, when it's a solemn story, we slow down and we talk about a 15-year-old who was murdered and how tragic that is. But then when they're talking about federal frenzy downtown, we're getting excited and we raise our voice a little bit. So I think the difference is really, and I try. My wife has always accused me of acting a little bit too much on air, and I don't know that I'm acting in a way that I'm trying to be something different, but I just want to be that person that when people are watching, that they're into it. I'm engaging them, which is tough to do between a camera and everything. And so I think that's maybe the biggest difference is that I really get into it. I mean, because it's just trying to engage the viewers and make sure that they enjoy watching me and they're listening and they can hear everything clearly. Whereas opposed to maybe just out and about, I'm just kind of, shooting the bull with you and everything like that. So,
well, I think you touched on a couple of themes here. You mentioned the word authentic, and being true, kind of to yourself. And that's a difficult thing to channel, when we are shooting political spots and the viewer is looking in camera and listening back to themselves and want to engage that person on the other side of the screen. If you're acting or faking it in any bit, they can tell.
Sure.
And you find the difference. This was always a plume in Tim Ryan's hat, is that even from a very young age, he was able to look directly in the camera and talk to voters in a way that made it authentic.
He was the first name that came to my mind as you were talking to me about this. Is in terms of politicians, I think Tim does one of the best jobs of looking authentic and genuine when he does his commercials.
Yes.
When you see these people just up there really rigid and they just are very stiff,
yep.
and they just kind of talk and read what's on the teleprompter. It's not authentic.
Well, and the other thing too is that you are aware and embrace, to kind of go back to the point where your wife was saying, oh, you're kind of acting.
Right.
When I do a voiceover, I don't speak, a lot of people are like, oh, you did that voiceover, the WDP, you're doing whatever it is. You're performing, right?
You are.
And so your instrument, you're aware of your instrument and how to use that instrument to reach an arpeggio or to reach, music terms, to reach you're channeling. And even to go back a little further to what we were talking about, you're aware that there was when you were young, you had maybe anxiety, and you just accept it, and you know it's still there. You're just channeling it into an acceptance, and and you're doing the same thing with your voice when you're doing those stories.
Sure.
And I think that really helps. That's probably why you guys are the number one news broadcast show locally.
Well, thank you.
And because you're engaging. That's not a knock on anybody
Correct.
of the other,
Correct.
KBN or YTV or
sure.
or YFX. There's just a connection I think people, have with you.
And that's the biggest thing. You got to have, in terms of the news business, you got to have that content, obviously, that people are wanting, but you've got to have engaging personalities that are on the desk, that are telling you these stories that you can relate to, and they're likable and everything. And so, yeah, I like how you put that too. I'm not really performing up there, but I'm using my skills and abilities to, of course, be as genuine and authentic as I possibly can. But of course, there are going to be times when I have to do different things with my voice to engage the emotion of that story you're trying to tell.
Yeah. Well, it's true to your authenticity, but it also is the viewer has to have faith in you and believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so that's always something.
Credibility
is
a big word.
Great
for
word.
me.
That's
yeah.
a great word. When you were in Jonesboro, and locally here, you've had a lot of support. You've given a lot of support, I should say, to artistic endeavors. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Federal Frenzy with music. There's a lot of great music acts here in Youngstown, and filmmakers, and you've had some local films on, and interviewed those guys, and the local art museums. And there's a lot of things that happen in this area that I think sometimes when I was just starting out younger, you wanted more and more and more because you wanted more activity. And you could always jump on 422 and head to Cleveland, or you could jump on what was 60 South and now it's 376 and go to Pittsburgh and kind of get that bigger city atmosphere. But you kind of wanted those things here. And there's been a lot of burgeoning artistic acts that have bubbled to the surface, and really kind of a resurgence of some of that stuff. So I'm appreciative that the news and 21 and 27 and 33, but especially yourself, you've been very receptive to covering a lot of that stuff. Did you cover a lot of that stuff when you first started out?
So, I was in sports.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So for me,
what a dumb question.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was just sports really for Jonesboro and mostly Montgomery. But I didn't immerse myself into the community. Jonesboro, I was only there for like 16 months or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't there long.
Did you ever make it to the Bradbury, the art museum there?
Where at?
The Bradbury Art Museum in Jonesboro.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not.
I'm just curious, yeah.
No, and I think I was 21, 22, 23 at the time. I was so young. I think as I've matured and grown older, I've become more appreciative of the arts and museums and all that stuff. And so I didn't really do much then. And when you are in this business, when I got to Montgomery, you get asked to MC some events every now and then. I did a little bit in Montgomery, but I've really done a lot since moving up here. And I think since moving up here is really, has helped my appreciation of the arts and culture and everything else grow. And since switching to news, you hear so much from people about we need to hear good news. We need to hear about all the other stuff exactly going on, because there's so much bad news in the news. And so that's why I think, and especially launching that weekend morning show, we had restaurants coming in every weekend, and we had the Butler segment every Sunday where we showcased a different piece of art at the Butler. And Dave Grohl Alley here in Warren is fantastic and stuff. And so there's so much great news around in this community. And I really have enjoyed telling those stories and trying to raise some awareness for those different events or organizations that do so much good in this community. And so I think to answer your question, not really so much just because of the role I was in Jonesboro and Montgomery, but definitely have seen that since I've switched to news and moved up here.
Yeah, I just saw Lou Zona on last night with that piece.
Yeah, that piece that was up at the Trumbull branch and has moved now down to the Butler. What a great piece.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. There's a lot of great, even the Medici in Howland.
The Medici is fantastic.
There's really a lot of cool stuff happening. And I go to a lot of the, like Fine Arts Council, Art on Park has some stuff. Those shows or private shows, they get a little more gritty, which I kind of like, you know.
Okay.
Sarah Bocone, local photographer, she had a show recently.
Okay.
Barry Berkey's buddy of mine, he's had shows locally, so he's Aaron Shine's down the way. A lot of different artists. I like those type of environments. I'm sad to see that the Soap Gallery is closing.
Yeah. I think they're going to find another location.
I hope so. I think they were talking about going out to Columbiana maybe.
Okay.
I think that was part of it, which is it's a little bit of a hike for me,
right? Right.
Youngstown's a hike, but it's an easy hike.
I want to say, didn't we have something in the news in the last week or so that was it Gerard or Struthers? I can't remember which. Struthers.
Yeah.
That wants to transform an old building into a new art gallery.
Yeah, those guys bought that place. Mm-hmm. And actually, there's and I don't know if this, by the time the show airs, it'll be out. We had a Dada show across the way here on Main Street. I forget, it was a Warren Community Building, was next door to it. But anyways, a guy bought it, Dale and his wife, and they had a sandwich shop. I forget the name of it. It was a cool little spot. They had ice cream and whatnot. And they let us have a show over there. And that place is kind of sat vacant. But recently, I believe, so I'm kind of going on a limb. I don't know if this will be out there. I might have to edit this, this part of it out. But Megan Reed from the Historical Society, they're looking to take that space over. And recently, a fella from Warren who was a props designer, John. I'm having a senior moment here.
No, I have them all the time.
John Zabrucki, who was graduated from Harding, went to California and became a props designer and a props manager, and he's got a massive collection of sci-fi props that he designed and were in tons of movies, RoboCop and Wrath of Khan, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, all these really great shows. And he is turning these props over to the Historical Society to start a sci-fi movie prop museum here in Warren, kind of with his, he's got a massive, he owned and operated Modern Props for years, and they were like one of the go-to places in Hollywood. In fact, there's a video online somewhere where they call it like the most important machine in the universe. I'm getting that wrong, but it's in like 30 different movies where you see this thing in the background with it kind of looks like that lava lamp, but it's got these red lights and they kind of look like they're doing something, and in multiple episodes of Star Trek and different movies, and so
that's so cool.
That's one of the props. And he did some of the stuff for Men in Black, like all the weapons. And
yes.
So that'd kind of be a neat little.
That'll be very neat.
Yeah.
It sounds like breaking news to me.
Yeah.
So keep me posted when we're ready to go public with that.
I will do that.
We'll have that on the news.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's not my program. I'm kind of consulting on it with Megan.
You let me know who to talk to.
I will. I'm curious, because you've worked in so many markets. What kind of makes Youngstown unique, aside from the family, structure of it?
Sure.
What's different about this market than, say, a Jonesboro or from St. Louis, where you're from?
Right. Yeah. No. It's they're all kind of different. Jonesboro was very small town, very rural, so to speak. A lot of farmland around. Montgomery, birthplace of the Civil Rights Movement, and talk about culture there, and just a different vibe. It's funny. Whenever I hear people that have lived in the South and then they move north or vice versa, the culture change and the culture shock, it's very different culturally down there. And then so moving up here, I think, everybody talks about the Steel Valley, and just that the history, the working class history that they have in this community. And you hear about the people that, all the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into making a living here. And then just honestly, the friendliness. It's probably the friendliest place that I've lived, to be honest with you.
What's all that Southern hospitality they talk about?
There is some, but no, there's still. I would still think people are friendlier up here.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I've really enjoyed it. I like living in a smaller place. Big city living is not for me. I don't mind visiting a big city.
Likewise.
When I go to New York or Chicago or Atlanta or whatever, I just would not want to live there. The traffic and the hustle and bustle. No, it's not for me. I am very small town, and I like that kind of quaint atmosphere. And so it's really been great. I mean, and there's enough to do though. You know what I mean? It's small, but there's still enough to do. And if you need to drive up to Cleveland or drive down to Pittsburgh or wherever and get something bigger, you got it. It's not far away.
You mentioned the big city stuff. I'm getting ready to plan a trip to LA for a job.
Nice.
And I'm already like having anxiety about being at LAX and being like traveling on the 405 or wherever I got to go to be. I was like, oh gosh.
There's nothing worse. I mean, it sucks. It's terrible. Be honest, it sucks.
I would take New York traffic over LA traffic any day of the week.
I'm with you.
Like the city being downtown or something. Right. That's okay.
And the subway travel's easy. Yeah. It's not hard. And DC is fantastic to get around with their metro and everything. But LA is just awful.
You know what else is bad? Houston. A lot of traffic.
Never been to Houston.
A lot of traffic in the Houston area. Yeah. Okay. It's kind of neat though because they've got like these wraparounds. They're going to put one of these in Howland now. That that thing they're doing.
What's that, diverging diamond?
Yes. And I look at it and I go, are people going to...
No.
They're not going to know what the hell they're doing.
It'll take a little bit.
Yeah. But I see them in Houston, man, and these people know. I was like the odd man on. I go, what do I do here?
Right.
You know?
Right.
You mentioned earlier, and I want to give you some kudos and make you feel safe, Derek, because I too met my wife at a bar.
At a bar.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Thank you.
We spent the evening talking as well, and you guys are on a board together.
Yes.
You share time together on the MRDD board.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great time to talk about it, but I also want to, throw some kudos your way and say thank you for doing that. And everybody that spends the time to get involved and give back and give their time, talents, and energy to things that are worthwhile, because you don't have to do that. You're a busy guy. It'd be easy for you to be able to say, man, I've got so much stuff going on between my professional life and my personal life. I just don't have the time. But you've made a lot of time, and I just saw you at the Christmas show this past Christmas. Tell us about that and why that's important to you, how you got involved.
Yeah. So I've been on a number of different organizations. I'll kind of go backwards a little bit. So first I was on the board of governors for the NATAS, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, with the Emmy stuff and everything. Did that for a couple of years. And then recently I was on the board for the Youngstown Press Club. But then I get asked to MC a lot of events. So I've MC'd the Heart Ball for the American Heart Association, probably 4 or 5 years running now. I've got a chance to do that. I play in a lot of golf outings and stuff like that with the station. I participate in the fashion shows for Angels for Easter Seals. We do that. I love doing the champagne luncheon for the Warren Junior Women's League. And they always partner with great nonprofits and everything. Well, a couple of years ago, I was asked to MC the Eyeball, which is Sight for All United.
Okay.
And it's the Eyeball. It's a big gala.
Oh, I get it. That's cute.
Yeah, the Eyeball. And it's a huge gala, huge fundraiser to raise money for Sight for All United, which, of course, provides glasses and just opportunities for people that are struggling with their vision and maybe can't pay for it. And I met a woman named Stephanie Champlin at that event. And for those that don't know, Stephanie is the executive director for the Fairhaven Foundation. Well, through working with her, she was kind of my handler for that event. and kind of, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to do all this. Well, through that, she reaches out to me, I want to say last spring, and asked if I would be interested in being the honorary co-chair for the Fairhaven Foundation golf outing, the golf tournament that she had kind of taken over and was putting on. And I said, absolutely. Looked forward to it. I liked working with Stephanie, and I loved what they were trying to do with that and then what the Fairhaven Foundation does. So I do that, and in the process of that, Stephanie asks if I would be interested in joining the board for the Fairhaven Foundation and putting a little bit more time using my energy and my skills to helping that organization, which, of course, helps serve the people that are served by the Trumbull County Department of Board of Developmental Disabilities. So these are people with disabilities, and I've never really, I don't have any relatives, I don't have any friends. I know of people that have a son or a daughter maybe with Down syndrome, or they have some other disabilities. I've done a number of stories on people with disabilities, and I've always admired their incredible courage and bravery and perseverance and determination. And so when she asked, you're right, I have a lot going on. I have 2 kids. I have a nighttime work schedule. I value my time at home where I've got so many other things going on. But when she asked, I absolutely wanted to be a part of that. And so I joined the board and have gotten to meet some incredible people, including your wife, and Matt Kresick.
Shout out Matt Kresick.
Matt Kresick.
What a great guy.
Awesome human being. And Stephanie, who I cannot say enough. She has a child with Downs, and her passion and energy is infectious. And when I see how excited she is for the programming that they do with the Fairhaven Foundation, it just makes you want to jump through a wall for her and for everybody else that is trying to help serve these families that have family members with disabilities. And so was a part of Winter Wonderland for the first time. Have you done it before or no?
No, that was
your
that
first?
Was our first time
okay.
too.
Yeah, so that was my first time. What an awesome event.
It was great.
It was fantastic. Of course, I was part of the Ability Walk and Roll last summer, the inaugural one. Your funny story, I don't know if your wife told you, but your son, beat out my son for the PS5.
Oh, that was a big deal, man. We had been looking for one of these PS5s for a long time, and
right.
you get into this like keeping up with the Jones things.
Sure,
oh, this kid got it, and he got it for this guy, and he went and paid 2 times over market value. I go, we ain't doing that, cat. Okay,
right.
So don't worry about it.
Right.
And we made him, we said, hey, mom and dad will put in for this, but this is going to be your game. So he comes up and works here, from time to time.
Okay.
And so he gets paid for it.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to teach him, and if he does his chores and stuff. So he set some money aside. So I said, we're going to go in a third. Mommy will go in a third. Dad will go in a third. And you're no problem, Dad. Of course, then Dad is really just a 47-year-old, body, but like a 15-year-old mentality. So after we buy it, like I went to Best Buy and bought like 5 games and another controller, and
no, same way.
Went a little crazy.
So I want to get back to that story in just a little bit, but first we just got my son a PS5 for his birthday in April, and I did the same thing. I think I probably play it more than he does. But no, it was so cute. He was bidding, and I think you guys got a pretty good deal on it.
It was a great deal. Oh my gosh.
People weren't really bidding on it. And I'm telling my wife, we got to get this. And then when I found out that Jimmy was wanting it and your wife was bidding too, your son is just so cute. And
Thank you.
And just it was awesome to see how excited he was to win that. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, he wants me to tell you thank you.
And he has.
Oh yeah.
He has himself, which tells me what a great job of raising him you guys have done.
Well, his mom does a good job with him. He gets the bad habits from me and the good from his mom.
Speaking of his mom, Renee, of course, is now president of our Fairhaven Foundation.
Yes.
And somehow I got elected vice president. But yeah, back to the board a little bit. The Fairhaven Foundation just does an incredible job of helping support the Board of Developmental Disabilities with programming throughout the year, grocery and food assistance, different products, or if there's like a wheelchair or whatever it may be, some piece of equipment, adaptive equipment that some of these kids or adults may need. The Fairhaven Foundation comes in, we raise money, because there's just, there's not enough money out there to help everybody, but we're trying to do our best. And so it's such a rewarding experience to be a part of a board and an organization that just tries to help so many people that really need the help. And so we've got the Ability Walk and Roll coming up again in August. We'll have Winter Wonderland again. We've got Disabilities Night at the Scrappers, and that's going to be cool. They're going to be wearing special jerseys that are going to be auctioned off and everything. Another really cool thing that the foundation is doing that I'm going to be working on a story on in June is that Stephanie came up with are Letterman jackets for those at the Fairhaven School.
Oh, that's awesome.
The athletes at the Fairhaven School. They've never had Letterman jackets before.
Oh, that's
cool.
Well,
the foundation is helping out financially with making sure that they get presented those, and they're going to get those at graduation.
That's awesome.
So it's really, really cool, and it's hard to not to want to be a part of a board or a foundation or an organization like that can help people, and just when you see the smile on their faces, and it's awesome.
Yeah, well,
it's awesome
being a part of that over the Christmas time.
Yeah.
They had little stations or whatever.
Yeah,
and we were helping out fill.
You did letters to Santa, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and I had to leave early that day, and I felt like, oh man, like I really don't want to leave. I just want to stay here because the pride that they have, like when they're and just their excitement, and you feed off of it.
Yes.
And it kind of makes you excited, and you really feel like you're making a connection and you're doing some good, and they have a sense of pride in what they're doing, and it gives you a sense of pride that you're making a difference. You're giving back in some small capacity.
I'm playing a small role in giving them joy and excitement
and self-respect and self-dignity.
Absolutely.
There was a kind of a personal connection for me too. I had run into an ex-girlfriend whose daughter is at Fairhaven, and just to have that, because I don't have a personal connection. Renee's cousin is at Fairhaven, so she has a personal connection, and of course I do, through her.
Right.
But to know somebody and she's graduated, her cousin has graduated, but to know somebody that is in the beginning part of that, she has a young daughter and a young son, and her daughter is there, and to know somebody that it's making a difference, and you see it in not only the students there, but you see it in the parents. And I got so many people said that day, thank you so much for doing this and spending, your time to do that. Altruism should be serving the person, that you're serving, the group that you're serving. But it's okay. I always tell people, like, whatever your rationale to do it is, like, it's okay that it makes you feel good too.
Oh, for sure.
So like that's people are like, well, just making you feel good or selfish, for selfish reasons you want to get your picture taken there. It's good for professionals. I'm like, I've served on tons of nonprofit boards. Like, I don't care what your motivations are, as long as you're there putting some time in, man, that's awesome. And if you're getting some some joy out of it.
Oh,
man, that's like
even better.
It's even
right?
better, and that gets you kind of coming back, right?
For sure.
Not only to that program, but to other things as well. I always feel like, and sometimes you can overdo it, but I always feel like those that are taking the time to give back, knowing how certain, like someone like yourself, knowing how busy that you are with your young kids, and I want to dovetail for a second though, before I forget. Your older sons, do they see you on TV? Like
like the older from my first marriage?
Yes.
No, so they're like one's 24, lives in Minneapolis, works for Activision.
Oh, wow.
And he went to art school. He went to
get him to send us a couple of development games for that PS5.
He works on Call of Duty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he works on the Call of Duty games.
So we just played that. My son just got. I played it a couple months ago, and I had to put it down because it was getting like it was going downstairs every night. Yeah, we have like a 10x10 jiu-jitsu mat, and I'd like draw the line, and it was the Oculus.
Yes.
Man, is it like?
Yeah.
You think the game on the flat screen's addictive when you're immersed in it. And then he got involved in it, and he's like, oh my God, Dad, this is like amazing,
Yeah, speaking of Oculus is fantastic.
Yeah, so he's doing Call of Duty. That's cool.
He is. So no, he doesn't get to see. And then my other one is a sophomore at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. So they're both kind of all over the place away and everything. But growing up with them, they always kind of thought it was cool that I was on TV, unlike the other two that I have now. They could care less. So.
You ever send them like clips of you? Because now you're on the internet.
No, not really. I mean, if they know they can watch, they can go stream it or whatever, and they can go check it out if they want to. But no,
I want to thank you for taking the time to come today.
Oh, absolutely.
I also want to make sure that people, our prodders out there, can find you if they like. Obviously WFMJ.com, but your Facebook channels and different things of that nature.
At Derek WFMJ is Twitter. I want to say it's the same thing for a work Facebook page. Some personalities don't allow viewers to just do their personal Facebook page. I do for the most part. I try to have somewhat of a connection with those people so that I can, I don't want just everybody obviously coming to be a friend and everything, but I'm not on Instagram as much as I should be. I'm kind of showing my age.
Me neither.
You neither?
Yeah.
I have a page and I post rarely, but I want to say it's Derek at WFMJ, or Derek WFMJ as well for that. But and send me an email too, Derek at WFMJ.com. Anytime they want to send me an email, but kind of old school, you know what I mean, with the email and the Facebook and stuff like that. I don't do the TikToks or anything.
My son keeps telling me, Dad, you got to get on Instagram. Or my buddy Barry's like, you got to get on Instagram. Oh, you got to get on TikTok now. You got to. There's so many of these social media handles that I just don't have the time. And part of what we do is we'll manage social media pages, mainly Facebook, for clients. And between my personal pages, the business pages, the prods page, and managing, I don't have time for another Instagram or even Twitter. I don't even have a Twitter, thing.
Right. Okay.
Because the engagement, like if you're not engaging on Twitter, it's like, what do you kind of have it for?
For sure.
I just don't have the wherewithal to do it.
We do a lot of Facebook Lives and stuff.
Yeah.
With the broadcasts and everything.
That's interesting. Let's touch on that just real quickly because I know, unlike having a 35-minute finite time for news or a 30-second commercial, we've got a little bit of latitude. Of course, I don't want to bore the viewers with my stuff. We could probably sit here and talk to you for hours. How's that changed? How have you seen the news gathering change over the years?
Oh, big time.
And like, because before it'd be like you'd go out, you'd have a crew, they'd be shooting, you'd be on camera. I've seen Lindsay here a couple times, like when she's broadcasting from the alley, and she's running the camera and doing her thing, or other newscasters where they're kind of like almost like a one-man show. I feel like when I started out, I was kind of like a one-man show. How's that part of it changed? And then how's the live Facebook live broadcast kind of changed?
So I think one-man bands is what we used to call when I got into the business. I think they've been around for a long, long time. There's always been the people that have done, all of it, the shooting, the writing, the editing, the on camera. But really, I would say within the last 15, 16 years, What's called the MMJ, the multimedia journalist, has really kind of taken off, and you're seeing more smaller stations, even bigger markets like your Clevelands and stuff like that, because they're cheaper. You're not having to pay for a photographer and the reporter now. You can get them all in one. You've seen that really change a lot, but the technology is just incredible. I can remember when I first started, we had this bag 3/4 deck that we had to tote around, and you had the light belt that you had to wrap around your waist, and just the size of this equipment and everything, and the cameras that were just huge on our shoulders. And now we're using little camcorder type cameras. And so I think that has been huge. But now when Facebook came out with that live ability and then just the social media aspects, you're getting stuff out now. I mean, back in the day, it used
almost in real time.
Correct. Back in the day, you had to wait for 5, 6, 11, 10, 11 o'clock, whatever time your news came on. You're not waiting anymore. And so that's, I think, really changed how we are presenting the news. We can't present it like it's brand new. You've already heard that whatever and such has been killed, or there's been a fatal accident, or there's an active shooter or whatnot. You have to go a little bit more in depth, and you have to provide that context as to what happened. And so Facebook Lives, you get on scene, and that's one of the first things our reporters are told to do is pop up Facebook Live.
Facebook Live.
Yep, let everybody know what's going on, kind of, get them, give them the information, give them what you know, and then tease what we're working on. And that's what we're going to have, later on in the newscast and everything. And so, and everybody's a blogger or a vlogger or whatever, with their phones and everything now, and the cameras, and they're taking videos at all these different scenes. Everybody is able to put up, everybody can be a broadcaster, so to speak, now in some sense, and they take videos. And I think just the fact that the news gets out there so quickly now is just so different from when it was when I first started.
Has that made it more challenging?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Like a more competitive marketplace and a more...
Yeah. Just dealing with more people.
Yeah.
Dealing with the people that want to be out there and video and everything.
What about the audience's expectation? Like, you ever miss a story? Like, well, how come you guys weren't there?
For
like
sure.
So-and-so was there.
For sure.
They had the Facebook Live thing, and you guys didn't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you get that a little bit. It's not as much as you think. It's not as prevalent as you think. But definitely, it's helped in terms of if you do miss something and you see the competition go doing the video over here, like, oh, we didn't know about that. We better get out there. And you always used to wait to put stuff on the websites and everything. Now that's first.
Yeah.
You get your story on the web before it ever goes on air, because again, people aren't waiting to find out. They're going to your website ever 5 times a day, or they're going to Facebook and all the news is on there or on Twitter. And again, they're not waiting around for the newscasts. And so I think that is really how we've had to evolve as television broadcasters in telling the stories and presenting the news.
What do you think the future holds?
I don't know, man. With this AI scares the crap out of me. It really does. I'm not so sure that it's not going to put us out of business.
I know. It makes me a little nervous too.
Yeah, because what they can do with these anchors and just presenting the news, I don't know. So I think there's always going to be a place for local news. Always. I don't think it'll ever just go away. But again, I think we're just going to have to continuously evolve to what our viewers want, what they need, and serve them in that way, the best way that we possibly can. And so hopefully I still have a job and can make it to retirement. But I'm telling you what, this
you got a long way to go, man.
Oh, I know.
You're 48?
I'll be 48 in August.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I still
1975. You're a 75. Me too.
You too?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, it's not excellent. I don't want to be 48.
No?
No, I want to be 28.
Oh.
I want to live the life that I have right now, but feel like I was 28.
I'm with you. I could see that. But I have really enjoyed growing older.
I have to some extent.
Yeah, no. Now so I still try to play soccer a little bit now as an adult. There's, adult leagues over at Farmer Jim's and stuff in Cortland, and my body doesn't like me playing soccer. I still enjoy it and everything. But I don't know. Yeah, if I knew what I know now in my 20s, That would be cool.
That would be really cool. Yeah. If I had the opportunities that I have now in my 20s.
Yes.
Yeah. Somehow I want to merge those two things.
Right. But but you know what? I have also enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
And it's because life is a journey, and you never know which way it's going to take you. And so I've enjoyed that, and you know, everything before today has led me to now. And you know, are there some things that maybe I would do differently? Maybe, you know, but it's been a great ride, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. So
well, you've made a great impact here in the Valley.
Well, thank you.
And you've said some wise things here today that I think a lot of viewers, you know, that watch you on the news, they probably got a different glimpse into you.
Yeah, I hope so. And you know, I've always kind of, some people are more private than others. I'm not. I'm pretty open. And so if anybody has any questions, they're always welcome to reach out, say hello, come up to me, say, I love meeting people out in public. I really do. That's why I think I enjoy the Canfield Fair and our tent and people coming up and being able to say hi and just learning about different people and what they're going through, and just meeting people that, you know, enjoy watching us on the news. It's great. And I want to do one quick thing. You mentioned about maybe aspiring broadcasters out there, or journalists or whatnot. You know, what I found so helpful for me were the internships. When you're in college and you're taking your classes, get involved as much as you can. Involved with internships, because that's going to open the door for you, just like it did for me in finding that job. And then when you get to those internships, we have some really good interns and we have some not so great interns. Get involved, ask questions, do things, because we have some that just don't say anything. They sit there, they wait to be told what to do.
Right.
Don't do that.
Choose the level of your involvement.
Exactly.
You're going to get more out of it the more you choose to do.
Go up to our news manager and say, hey, what can I do? Is there anything I can do? Can I make some calls? Can I go out? Be involved. The more involved you can be, the better chance you're going to be to get an opportunity. And so I would just encourage any students out there or people that want to get involved to really be actively involved in terms of internships, and go to a TV station, and go to multiple TV stations, go to a newspaper if you want to, go to any type of organization that you want to work for, so that you can kind of see if that's right for you. Because I know people that have said, I don't think I want to do this.
Yeah.
And others have said, it's solidified why I want to do this.
That's great advice.
So, yeah.
You're very comfortable in your own skin.
For sure.
And that's certainly a benefit to what you're doing. And I'm sure that getting those reps we talked about earlier, you know, allowed you to do that.
For sure. And because I co-anchor with a couple of young ladies who do an excellent job, Madison Tromler and Erin Simonek, and they've just got so much potential. And I mean, they're just really, really going to be good. And I see a lot of myself in them. You know, still the nerves are still there, and we talk all the time with the nervousness in there. And I'm like, it's going to take time. It's going to take time and continuing to do it, and you're going to get there. You're going to get more comfortable. But shout out to the team at 21 WFMJ. Great group of people that I work with. Great group of news managers that go throughout the day, grind every day. You should see our planner and how many different things we get, you know, asked to do stories on. And it's a grind to go through that each and every day and choose the stories that we choose, because, again, we have that finite amount of time.
Right.
30 minutes at 6 and 35 minutes at 11. We do have that 5 o'clock newscast now, so we have an hour. We can get a little bit more in there. But they work so hard to make sure every community is covered. Stories are told. We do watchdog reports, trying to hold people accountable, making sure your tax dollars are being spent properly. And they spend all day to try to make sure that we're serving the viewers in the best possible way. And so I really enjoy working for them. And we're locally owned, which is that's There's maybe less than a handful in the country right now that are locally owned. And so have really been blessed to be a part of that company, and so it's been great since coming up.
Well, you provide a great service with great purpose for the viewers.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great way of putting that.
Well, and I appreciate you giving some fantastic advice.
Sure.
And certainly mentoring some of those younger reporters. And you're a young mentor.
Yeah, no, and it's
48
interesting.
isn't, not that I want to push it along.
No,
48 is
and
not
I've
that.
kind of embraced that role because I really do enjoy working with the next generation of broadcasters and lending whatever expertise I may have in trying to help them mold their craft and become better at their jobs. And, I love nothing more than would I love all of them to stay? For sure, but I would love to see them go to a bigger market or go on to bigger and better things. I love having a small role in that and helping them, get better at being a better journalist.
I still follow Caroline Collins.
Yeah.
And
so
see all the stuff she's doing. And that's really great to see.
It's super cool. And I enjoy working with the younger folks now and just really being a leader in that newsroom to anybody, you know what I mean? And listening to what they need and doing what we can and serving everybody as much as possible.
Well, you're a leader in the news and a leader in the community, and I personally want to thank you on behalf of all of us that are watching and all of us that understand the important work that you guys are doing at the foundation over there, and all the other stuff that you're involved with too.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I enjoy. I MC the Miss Niles pageant every year, and that's just such a fun time to do that. Just last week I did an MC'd a fundraiser for the Emmanuel Community Care Center, which helps people in Trumbull County over there, senior citizens and everything. And I love, again, just being a small bit of helping different nonprofits and organizations either raise money or raise awareness, but really just making this community a better place, man. That's what it's all about, right?
You're a good man, Derek Steyer.
I try to be.
You're a good anchor and a good man. Hey, congratulations and good luck on the Emmy.
Thank you.
You're also nominated for Multimedia Emmy, you personally.
Yes,
not
so
only
me
just
personally
the show.
for stories that I did on my own, what's called an MMJ, where I went out and shot it, I wrote it, I edited, I did it all on my own, multimedia journalist. And so I won an Emmy last year for a piece I did on a kid at the Potential Development School with autism who drove himself to school. He became the first student at Potential Development to drive himself to school. And I rode along with him, and it was such a cool story. And I was fortunate to win an Emmy Award for that one. This one, I've got a composite of 4 different stories. I did a story on how Brookfield High School started a drone racing team.
Oh, that's
cool. That
was
super cool. I did a story on a blind guy working out to become a bodybuilder. He lost his eyesight a few years ago and felt like he didn't really have a purpose, but has now found that purpose in working out and trying to become a bodybuilder. I did a story on a guy that built a flying e-bike here in Warren. It's really super cool.
It's flying e-bike?
Yes. So he teaches, and I'm going to get this wrong, power paragliding. So you know about paragliding, right?
Yeah.
So he builds this like bike that's got like a fan on the back, like what you would see on an airboat.
Really?
And then it's got, so you fire up that fan and then the motor, that's the motor engine, and it takes it off the ground, and then you've got a big parachute behind you. And so you're power paragliding.
Wow.
Well, he built one that has like a battery on it. So then after you land, because he said one of the biggest challenges of powered paragliding is you fly all around, but then when you land, now you got to have somebody come pick you up. So if you took off 5 miles down the road, somebody's got to drive 5 miles and come pick you up because you had no way of getting back.
Yeah.
Well, he was a way to hook this electric battery up, and now you can go 20 miles on a charge. It's a trike. It's got 2 wheels in the back and 1 in the front, and he's like, you can fly coast to coast if you want.
That's super cool.
I know. It was really, really cool. He was the first one, invented the only one of its kind in this country.
I want to take a ride off the top of this building here.
He said for doing the story that he was willing to train me and let me fly his. So I'm hoping to do that this summer.
Yeah, man.
I know, right?
I want to hear about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I also did a story. It was a memorial tree scam. Do you know about memorial trees?
Well, yeah.
So,
they bury you in it and they grow you?
No.
They name a tree after you?
Yeah. So when
there is that too, though.
Yeah.
You can turn into a tree.
Right. That's awesome.
When they bury you in some kind of sack with a... in your yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not that.
It's another podcast.
That's another story for you.
Yes, another day. So when someone dies, you can go to a funeral home website and you can purchase a memorial tree.
Oh, yeah.
In their honor, and then a group, the American Forest Organization, will go and plant a tree. Did you do it?
I did it. I wasn't part of the scam.
I hope you weren't either.
Yeah.
I hope you weren't either. Some people locally, you're supposed to get a 1-year update where and when your tree was planted. And these people weren't getting those updates. And so we looked into that. Didn't get a whole lot of information. And so we just tried to shed some light on that. And hopefully we were able to get the two organizations that collaborate and work on this to maybe be a little bit more transparent. And hopefully down the road, people will make sure that they know where their trees are getting planted. So that was my list of stories that I submitted for this Emmy Award. Got nominated, very fortunate. I'm one of 3 that are nominated in that category, and we'll see if I win. It's, you don't get into this business to win awards, but it sure is nice. Again,
it's nice. It validates.
It validates,
especially from your peers,
what you're doing from your peers, for sure.
Well, it's cool. The journalism, broadcast journalism, and newspapers have taken a hit recently with some politicians calling them out on their validity and their truthfulness and fake news and all this stuff. It's super important that local stations and local newspapers exist, because if it's not for you guys holding some of these folks accountable and shining light on scams and things like that, we don't, as consumers, sometimes we're not made aware of that. And kudos to local news and to all news outlets. Are there certain things that are maybe slanted, owned by different things, et cetera, on a national level? Certainly.
Sure.
However, when you see your local broadcasters out there and your local newspaper man or newspaper woman working the beat, give them some credit, because if it wasn't for them, consumers like us might not find out about the scams, or might not, the local politicians, the local office holders, they might not be held accountable. And you folks are doing that.
And I can tell you, for anybody that's listening out there that think we have an agenda on the local level, we don't.
Right.
I know maybe it comes across that way, and whether it's what you believe or what you hear, but we don't. At the local level, we have no agenda other than to serve our viewers and hold people accountable and make sure that they're aware of what's going on in their community. And so I appreciate that sentiment. And,
welcome.
You don't have to come up and kiss us or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, we're here doing our job.
You don't have to thank us for our service.
Yeah, you don't have to thank us. But it does hurt when we get hit with fake news, or, oh, you just have an agenda, I can't believe you're doing that. Or, and a lot of times, we get hit with, well, why aren't you guys covering this? Sometimes we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Just let us know, and we'll look into it for sure. But yeah, we don't have an agenda. We're out here to serve our viewers and again, do the best that we can to make sure people are aware and, hopefully hold the people accountable that are doing bad things.
Well, I want you to keep on rocking in the free world out there, okay?
Keep on rocking. I have a good falsetto. We talked about my singing earlier. I kind of like my falsetto.
Let's hear a little bit of that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Maybe we'll do another one.
Derek, I totally appreciate you taking
Jim,
the time today to come out and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I encourage you to continue mentoring and continue getting good advice to those folks out there that are trying to figure out, maybe it's broadcast journalism, maybe it's visual art, maybe it's, all those things are kind of tied together.
Right. And, we were in that position at one point. Some people helped me along the way. I want to help the next group. For sure.
For those people that you are, I am thanking you on their behalf.
Well, thanks, Jim. What a pleasure. What a fun time.
I appreciate it. I had a great time as well. I'll have to do it again.
For sure.
Until the next time, prodders out there, be kind to one another, stay electrified, and make sure you're out there like Derek Steyer contributing to your local causes, because it's important and it's appreciated. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.